This is properties of parallel lines. Students will be able to find missing angles given parallel lines and a transversal by using the special angle pairs. And those angle pairs are what we talked about the other day. So one of them is corresponding angles. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the corresponding angles are congruent. So they give you a little example of what corresponding angles are over here. And then this is abbreviation that I'm guessing you can use if you're doing a proof. What it means is if parallel lines are parallel, then corresponding angles are congruent. When we start doing proofs, you don't necessarily have to write it out that well, but we'll get to that later. Alternate interior angles. Make sure you're pausing this video because I'm going to go through these fairly quickly because just writing stuff down. So if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate interior angles are congruent. Same side interior. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of same side interior angles are not congruent. They're supplementary. This is the only one out of the four pairs that we're learning. This is the only one that's supplementary. They add up to be 180 degrees. That's the only ones like that. So make sure you realize that those are supplementary. Then, last but not least, alternate exterior angles. If two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then alternate exterior angles are congruent. So again, all of them are congruent except for same side interior. So make sure you remember that. So I guess if in doubt, if you're going to have to guess, I would guess they're congruent, but make sure you remember that same side interior is not. So the reason I like this is because if I just give you one angle, I say this angle is 80, you can find all the other angles fairly quickly, and you can do it in numerous different ways. So you could say, all right, so if that's 80, I know this is 80 because they're vertical angles. If this is 80, I know this is going to be 100 because this is a linear pair. It's a straight line, so it adds up to be 180. So this also has to be 100. Again, we have vertical angles, we have linear pairs, have a bunch of different options for that. But not only that, but now we can go to the other ones. I know this is going to be 80 because they're corresponding with this one. They're supplementary, same side interior for that one. I know this is 80, this has got to be 100, and this has got to be 100. And again, there's several different ways. You can do corresponding angles, alternate interior, same side interior, all those, you can figure out those other angles. So we will have some questions that just say, find the other 7 angles. Oh, last but not least, remember these are parallel. They mark them parallel over here. But for the most part, we're dealing with parallel lines. So let's just do a couple of these where we find these missing angles. One thing that I like to do a lot with this is you realize that every one of these angles they show you, it's either going to be 65 or it's going to be supplementary. So before I even do anything, I find out what the supplementary angle is to 65. So they have to add up to be 180. So 180 minus 65 is 115. So your answer for every one of these is either going to be 65 or 115. So what is angle 1? It's a vertical angle, so that's 65. You don't have to say it's a vertical angle, but I want to make sure you're realizing the thought process and why we can figure those out. Angle 2, I know that's going to be 115 because it is supplementary. It makes up a linear pair, makes up that straight line. Angle 3 is also 115. It makes up this other straight line this way. Angle 4 is 65 because they're corresponding angles, which means they're congruent. And angle 5 is 115. And that one, there's not a specific relationship because this is interior, this is exterior, it's opposite sides. So we don't have a specific one, but we can build on what we know. This is 65, so 4 has to be 65. So now we have that linear pair. So that one, you kind of have to do one extra step, but it's really not too bad. So let's do the same thing with this one. So again, I'm going to find my supplementary angle right away. 180 minus 51 is 129. So every angle that we're going to find is either 51 or 129. So angle 1 is 129. Again, it is a linear pair with those. Angle 2 is 129 because they're same side interior, which means they're supplementary. They're not congruent. Obviously, they're not congruent if you look at it. Angle 3 is going to be 129. Again, you have to kind of do 2 steps. We know this is 129, and so these are vertical angles. You can't just do it kind of directly in one step. Angle 4, alternate interior with our original 51. That's still 51. And angle 5 is corresponding with our original angle. Now this one looks a little bit different, but realize these lines are still parallel. They just stop right here. This is a ray, not a line, but it's still, everything's the same. 120 plus blank is 180. It's got to be 60. So angle 1 is 120 because it's corresponding. If you want to extend this line to make it look a little bit more like we're used to, you can. Angle 2 is 60 because it's same side interior, so it's supplementary. Angle 3 is alternate interior, so it's congruent. Angle 4, again, there's several different ways to do this, but if I know angle 2 is 60, that means 4 is 60 because they're vertical angles. And angle 5, we know it's 60 because it makes up that straight line there. So I put these in here because I like that you actually have to write out the postular theorem that you use, and there a couple of them, there's a couple different ones you can use. So if angle 6 is 53, how do you find angle 7? Well, angle 7 is alternate interior, which means it's also 53. And so I just put the alternate interior. And technically it's the alternate interior angle theorem, but if you just say alternate interior, I'm fine with that. Angle 8. So angle 8 is, again, where you can't really do it directly from angle 6. So the way I would do it is we just found that angle 7 was 53. And so I would say, so that means it's 180 minus 53 is 127. So angle 8 is 127. And I know that because, and I'm going to say alternate interior for 7, then linear pair. Because you have to have 2, and if instead of doing a linear pair you said supplementary, I can accept that. I think that one's a little bit more, they could have done that one a little bit easier. And angle 9 is going to be 127, and that is alternate interior. Or sorry, that one's same side interior. With our original, same side interior with the original 53 that we knew. So, so the next one. So now we're going to be doing some solving for this. So what is the relationship to the angles we know? This is 90 degrees and this is 3x, but they're corresponding. And then I'm going to put with that, that means they are congruent. So how will you set up the equation? Well, if they're congruent, they're equal. So the top one is 90, that's what that box means, is equal to 3x. When you solve that, you divide both of them by 3. You get x is equal to 30. So now we're going to be using what we know, what we just learned, and what we know before was solving and setting things equal. I will give you a heads up, you're either setting them equal or they're supplementary every single time. So these two, we have alternate exterior. So they are also congruent. So I would set up 7x plus 1 is equal to 10x minus 50. Then solve for x. So I'm going to subtract 7x. 1 is equal to 3x minus 50. I'm going to add 50. End up with 3x is equal to 51. X is equal to 17. Now again, that solving part should be pretty straightforward. The new thing is setting it up this way. And we'll get some examples of when they're not congruent and they're supplementary, so they add up to be 180. So be careful. Remember, that's the same side interior. And if they make up a linear pair. So these first ones are really easy. Find the value of the question mark. Well, if this is 97, this one's 97. And again, you don't have to write it down, but that's the alternate interior angle. This question mark is 77 because they're corresponding angles. So they're congruent. And this one, it's not 55 because now it's same side interior. So 55 plus what number is 180? So 180 minus 55 is 125. So it's got to be 125. And again, it's obvious. This angle is small. This angle is really big. One's acute, one's obtuse. They're definitely not congruent. So now we're actually solving for x. So now we have one that, again, they're the same side interior, so they're not congruent. You do not set them equal. Instead, you have 73 plus x plus 113 is equal to 180. They add up to be 180 because they're supplementary. And then from here, you solve like normal. 73 plus 113 is 186. Subtract 186 from both sides. You get x is equal to negative 6. And you might say, well, that doesn't really make sense because it's a negative. And you're right, you do not get a negative angle. You never get negative angles. But if you take that negative 6 and plug it back in here, you don't get a negative angle. This is not the angle. This is just x. So if you sub it back in there, the angle is actually 107. Which makes sense because it's supplementary to 73. So these are corresponding angles. Since they're corresponding angles, they are congruent, so they are equal. So now we can set them equal. Add 10. 80 is equal to 8x. And again, I might be going a little bit quick because I'm a little bit cutting short on time, but also, again, it's setting them up. That's the only new part. After that, it's solving just like we did in Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. So we have alternate exterior angles. Alternate exterior are also congruent. So we have 20x is equal to 21x minus 4. And again, you don't actually have to write down alternate exterior and write all that down, but it's definitely make sure you know that because that's how you can tell. If I had a little bit more time, I really should write these down, or I should label that to make it easier for you, but running behind. That's negative x is equal to negative 4. So x is equal to 4 for that one. And again, they're just asking for x. They're not asking for the angles. If they want the angles, we need to plug it in for those x's, but they don't ask for that yet. Now these are a little bit, they look challenging, but they're really not that bad. Instead of having parallel lines, now we have this quadrilateral. But realize they're saying these lines are parallel. So if you were to extend these, you end up getting the exact same thing. If you just look at this, that's what we've been doing. So those are same side interior. So x plus x minus 50 is equal to 180. They're supplementary because they're same side interior. So we have 2x minus 50 is equal to 180. Add 50. Again, I know I'm going quickly through this, but this is all Algebra 1 solving stuff. If you need to pause it, make sure you do so. Divide each side by 2. You get x is 115. Again, that's x. That's not the, find the value of x, then find the measure of each labeled angle. So x is 115. Then we have 115 minus 50 is 65. So that one did ask us to find each label. So we don't need, I guess these are both 90 degrees. That's pretty obvious. But you didn't need to find those because they weren't labeled. And same thing with this. So now we have a triangle. In the bottom, again, we have these are both parallel. And again, that means that this would be our transversal. So this angle and this angle are corresponding. So then we can set those equal. 3x minus 10 is equal to x plus 40. Subtract the x. 2x minus 10 is equal to 40. Add 10. 2x is equal to 50. Divide by 2. X is equal to 25. And then again, it says find x and then find the measure of each labeled angle. And then I have 25. Now we plug that in. So 25 plus 40 is 65. That's a good one. Then 3 times 25 is 75. Minus 10 is 65. Which, again, we should have known that because they're congruent, because they are corresponding angles. So, oh, there's one more. So we have another one. Now, this one's a little different. These are the parallel lines. So this is the transversal. But again, they're still same side interior, which means they add up to be 180. So that's 9x is equal to 180. Divide by 9, we get x is equal to 20. Again, sorry I'm going quickly through that, but you can always pause it and rewind it. 5 times 20 is 100. 4 times 20 is 80. So I apologize that I went a little bit quickly through some of those, but again, I'm running short of time, and you can always pause it, you can rewind it, you can rewatch that stuff. Make sure you're understanding this. If you're not, make sure you are emailing or asking in class.